Welcome, beloved listener, to Ocean of Mind. Tonight, you are invited to leave behind the weight of the day. Let your body soften, let your breath slow. Let your thoughts settle like snow falling onto quiet ground. This is your time to return to yourself, to rest, to reflect, to receive. In this sacred space, we will journey through ancient Zen stories, not only to soothe the mind, but to awaken something deeper. Let every word be a whisper in the stillness of your spirit. Let every pause be a doorway, opening to peace. As we begin our first story, gently allow yourself to be present, not with effort, but with ease. Close your eyes, dear soul. Let's begin. Story 1. The Empty Cup. Long ago, in the rolling hills of Japan, there lived a respected professor. An expert in philosophy and spiritual traditions. His name was Sato. He had spent years studying, teaching, writing. His shelves were filled with ancient texts. His mind overflowing with theories. But something stirred in him, a yearning that knowledge alone could not satisfy. Despite all his learning, there remained a quiet ache, a thirst not quenched by words. And so, he journeyed to visit a Zen master named Ryakan, a humble monk known not for eloquent lectures, but for his deep silence. The temple was nestled in the mountains, its wooden beams worn smooth by wind and time. Birdsong echoed in the distance. Incense curled in the air like a gentle spirit. Professor Sato arrived with pride concealed in politeness. He bowed. The monk returned the bow silently. They sat on straw mats face to face, the air between them filled with possibility. After a moment of stillness, Ryakan picked up a teapot and 2 small cups. Without a word, he began to pour. As the tea flowed into Sato's cup, he began to speak hurriedly, nervously, about his accomplishments. His studies in comparative religion. His understanding of Zen concepts. But the monk said nothing. He continued pouring. And pouring. The tea reached the rim and spilled over. First a few drops, then a steady stream dripping onto the mat, soaking the professor's robe. "Stop," Sato exclaimed. "Can't you see? The cup is full." Ryakan looked up, his eyes as calm as a mountain lake. Then, in a voice gentle and unwavering, he spoke. "You are like this cup, so full of your own opinions and knowledge. There is no room left to receive. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" Silence fell. Sato was struck still. Not by offense, but by the undeniable truth woven into those simple words. In that moment, the weight of his titles, his arguments, his conclusions fell away. All he could feel was the heat of the tea, the humility rising in his chest, and a quiet readiness to learn. He bowed deeply, not as a professor, but as a student. Zen is not learned through pages, but through presence. The mind that clings to its own ideas cannot absorb the truth that flows silently through life. Sometimes to be wise, we must unlearn. To grow, we must be emptied. Ask yourself, dear soul, what are you holding on to that no longer serves you? What stories, what judgments, what noise? Can you set them down? Can you allow your cup to be empty? Not as a loss, but as a sacred beginning. Let this silence fill you with something deeper than thought. Let it remind you, you are not your knowledge. You are the space in which truth can arise. Story 2. The Bamboo and the Oak. In a quiet forest temple, far from the noise of cities, lived an old Zen master and his disciples. The temple sat between tall mountains, surrounded by nature, where the rustle of leaves and the song of birds became part of every lesson. One morning, after a storm had passed, the master invited his disciples outside. The ground was still wet with rain, and broken branches lay scattered. Pointing to the bamboo grove, the master asked, "What do you see?" The disciples noticed the bamboo swaying gently in the wind, unharmed by the storm. Then the master pointed to a large oak tree nearby. It had split and fallen under the pressure of the storm. The master turned and said, "Let us walk." As they walked among the trees, the master shared, "The oak is strong but rigid. It stood tall, proud, and firm. But in its strength, it could not bend. The storm broke it. But the bamboo, it is soft, hollow, and flexible. It bent low with the wind, danced with the storm, and stood tall again when it passed." One disciple asked, "But isn't strength better than weakness?" The master paused by a stream and replied softly, "True strength is not resistance. It is acceptance. The bamboo yields not because it is weak, but because it knows its place in nature. It trusts the wind, just as we must trust life." They sat quietly by the stream, the sound of water flowing, the bamboo swaying in rhythm with the breeze. The master continued, "When you are faced with loss, pain, or hardship, do not resist. Bow like the bamboo, flow like water. For life is not something to control, it is something to flow with." As the sun broke through the mist and lit the forest in soft gold, the disciples sat in deep silence. The story stayed in their hearts, a reminder that in yielding there is great wisdom. Let this story linger in your breath. In the world, we are taught to be strong, to hold firm, to stand our ground. But perhaps the greater strength lies in our ability to bend, to be soft, to be receptive, to let the storm pass through us without resistance. In every moment of tension, ask yourself, am I the oak or am I the bamboo? The bamboo survives not because it fights, but because it understands the dance of life. Let this teaching settle in your mind like morning dew on a leaf, quiet, present, and still. Story 3. The Silent Bell of Jin Temple. In the heart of Kyoto, where narrow stone paths lead past wooden houses and red lanterns, stood the ancient Zen temple. A place known not only for its age, but for the great bronze bell that hung silently in its tower. This bell had not rung in over 100 years. It was said that the bell had once tolled at dawn and dusk, its sound carrying over the rooftops, calling monks to meditation and people to presence. But after a fierce civil conflict, a crack formed in the bronze and the bell fell silent, never to ring again. Many believed it was broken beyond repair. Some called it a relic of the past. Others believed its silence was sacred, a symbol of what cannot be said in words. In this temple lived a young monk named Haru, who had come seeking truth. Haru was not born into a spiritual life. He had once lived in the bustling markets of Osaka, full of noise, ambition, and endless striving. But something had always been missing, a quiet longing, a deeper question that no amount of success could silence. Now, Haru spent his days sweeping the temple grounds, fetching water from the stream, sitting in meditation and listening deeply to the world around him. One autumn evening, as golden leaves danced in the courtyard, Haru approached the head monk, an elder named Master Kozen, and asked, "Master, if the bell no longer rings, why do we still bow to it each morning?" Master Kozen smiled gently, his eyes reflecting the calm of the moon. He replied, "Because the bell still rings, not in sound but in silence." Haru looked confused. How can we hear what does not make a sound? The old master placed a hand on Haru's shoulder and said, "Come, let me show you." They walked up the wooden stairs of the bell tower together. The air was cool, and the wind whistled gently through the wooden beams. The great bell stood still, wrapped in cobwebs, its surface etched with ancient characters worn smooth by time. Master Kozen knelt before it, and Haru followed. "Close your eyes," said the master. "Now listen." At first, Haru heard nothing, just the soft beat of his own heart, the wind outside, a distant bird. But as he sat longer, a strange thing began to happen. The silence grew full. It was as if the bell had begun to vibrate, not in his ears, but in his chest. In the space between thoughts, in a stillness that seemed to reach deeper than any sound ever could. He opened his eyes slowly. Master Kozen whispered, "This is the bell's true voice, not in ringing, but in reminding. It reminds us of what is always present, yet always overlooked: silence." Haru felt tears rise gently. He bowed to the cracked bell, not out of tradition, but out of deep reverence. He had come seeking answers and found them not in teachings, but in listening. From that day on, Haru continued to bow to the bell each morning, and though it never rang, it spoke to him in ways the world never could. Years later, when Haru became the head monk himself, visitors would ask about the silent bell. He would smile softly and say, "If you truly wish to hear it, listen not with your ears, but with your whole being." We often chase sound, noise, and motion, seeking meaning in things loud and visible. But perhaps the deepest truths are not spoken, they are felt in stillness. The bell of Jin Temple reminds us that silence is not empty, it is full of presence, full of knowing. Take a breath. Let the silence around you expand. In that quiet, may you hear the gentle wisdom that the world so often drowns out. The bell is not broken, it simply calls in a different way. Story 4. The Monk and the Bell's Echo. In a mountain monastery, often visited by pilgrims, lived a seasoned monk named Gyro. His small meditation hut was situated near the main temple, from which the great bronze bell rang out each dawn and dusk, its deep tones echoing through the valley. Many new novices found the bell's resounding peal jarring, a sudden eruption that disturbed their newfound quiet. Some would flinch. Others would mentally brace themselves, anticipating the sound. One morning, as the first rays of light touched the monastery roofs, the bell began its slow, deliberate chimes. A young novice, struggling with his meditation, tensed at the first deep note. He watched Gyro, who sat perfectly still, his eyes gently closed. The bell rang again, a powerful wave of sound. The novice waited for Gyro to react, perhaps even visibly relax into the sound. But Gyro remained utterly unmoving, his expression serene. When the final echo faded, leaving a vast silence in its wake, the novice opened his eyes and quietly asked, "Master Gyro, how do you remain so undisturbed by the bell? Its sound, though sacred, is so immense." Gyro opened his eyes, a soft, knowing gaze meeting the novice's. "Ah, the bell," he murmured. "It is not the sound itself that disturbs us, but our resistance to it. The sound arises, it resonates, and it fades. There is no clinging, no pushing away. It simply is. In that acceptance, even the loudest sound can lead you deeper into stillness." He closed his eyes again, inviting the novice to do the same. The air in the hut felt thick with a quiet understanding. The memory of the bell's powerful presence now felt like a gentle ripple in an endless pool of calm. The novice, for the first time, felt the quiet beyond the sound, the stillness that embraced even the loudest echo. Just as the monk became the echo, we too can allow the sounds around us, or even the thoughts within us, to simply pass through. There's no need to cling to them. No need to push them away. When we stop resisting what is, we discover a profound peace, deeper than any silence. Story 5. The Empty Boat. On a wide, placid lake, a Zen master sat in meditation, his small boat gently drifting. The morning mist still clung to the water's surface, and the world was hushed. Suddenly, another boat, unseen in the mist, collided gently with the master's vessel. The impact caused a slight jolt, disturbing his deep stillness. The master opened his eyes, ready to express his annoyance, perhaps to scold the careless rower. But as the mist cleared, he saw that the other boat was empty. It had simply broken free from its mooring and drifted aimlessly into his path. There was no one to blame, no one to be angry with. A profound realization dawned upon him. He closed his eyes again, a gentle smile spreading across his face. He understood that much of his own frustration and anger arose not from the events themselves, but from his expectation of someone to blame, someone to hold accountable. When there was no one, the anger had nowhere to land. It simply dissolved, like the mist before the rising sun. From that day forward, whenever he felt anger or irritation arise, he would remember the empty boat. He would ask himself, is there truly someone here to blame? Or is this just an empty boat, drifting by? And with that understanding, the anger would often dissipate, leaving him in a state of quiet acceptance. Many of our frustrations are like collisions with an empty boat. When we realize there is no deliberate intention to harm, no one to hold accountable, our anger often has nowhere to settle. We can choose to let these empty boats drift by, allowing peace to return to our inner waters. Story 6. The Unfolding Lotus. In a still pond, nestled deep within a quiet garden, a wise monk named Kenji observed a lotus flower bud. Each morning, before the sun fully touched the water, he would sit and watch. The bud was tightly closed, a green spear pointing to the sky. It seemed to hold all its beauty hidden within. A young visitor, eager for quick enlightenment, asked Kenji, "Master, why does the lotus take so long to open? Can we not help it, perhaps gently peel back a petal?" Kenji smiled, his gaze still fixed on the bud. "To rush the lotus," he replied softly, "is to break its delicate essence. It has its own time, its own perfect unfolding. The true lesson," he continued, "is not in its speed, but in its patience. It trusts the warmth of the sun, the nourishment of the water, and the innate wisdom of its own being." Days passed into weeks. The monk and the visitor continued their silent vigil. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, the bud began to swell. Then one dawn, as the first light kissed the pond, the outer petals began to unfurl, revealing the vibrant inner beauty, layer by delicate layer. It did not burst open in a rush, but revealed itself with quiet dignity, petal by exquisite petal, until it stood in its full, radiant glory. The visitor gasped at its breathtaking perfection. Kenji simply nodded. "Like the lotus," he whispered, Peace and wisdom unfold in their own perfect time. We cannot force them. We can only create the right conditions and trust in the natural process. Life, like the lotus, unfolds at its own pace. There is no need to force, no need to rush. When we trust in the wisdom of nature and the inherent unfolding of our own being, we find peace in the present moment, allowing our own inner beauty to reveal itself naturally. Story 7. The Overflowing Cup. A scholar, eager to learn the profound truths of Zen, traveled a great distance to meet a renowned Zen master. Upon arrival, he immediately began to speak, detailing his vast knowledge, his many years of study, and his countless ideas about the world. The master listened patiently, without interruption. As he prepared tea, he poured hot tea into the scholar's cup. He poured until the cup was full, and then he continued to pour, the hot tea overflowing the rim, spilling onto the saucer and then onto the table. The scholar, astonished, cried out, "Master, it's overflowing. It can hold no more." The master calmly stopped pouring and looked gently at the scholar. "Indeed," he said, "like this cup, your mind is already full of your own opinions, your own ideas, your own vast knowledge. How can I teach you anything new?" The master continued, "If your cup is already overflowing, to truly learn, to truly receive, you must first empty your cup." The scholar fell silent, his gaze shifting from the overflowing tea to the master's serene face. He understood that true learning was not about accumulating more, but about creating space, about letting go of what he thought he already knew, to make room for true insight, to find true peace, to truly rest. We sometimes need to empty our minds, to release the thoughts, the plans, the beliefs that fill us, creating space for a quiet stillness to enter. Allow your cup to empty now, making room for deep tranquility. Story 8. The Two Monks and the Woman. Two Zen monks, a senior monk named Tanzan and a junior monk named Aikido, were traveling together on a pilgrimage. They came to a muddy road where heavy rains had fallen. Near a crossing, they saw a beautiful young woman, dressed in fine silk, hesitating at the edge of the muddy path. She clearly could not cross without ruining her clothes. Without a moment's thought, Tanzan, the senior monk, immediately picked her up and carried her across the muddy stretch, setting her down gently on the other side. He then continued on his way with Aikido. Aikido, the junior monk, was deeply troubled. For hours, as they walked in silence, he pondered Tanzan's action. Monks were forbidden to touch women, especially young and beautiful ones. He wrestled with the perceived transgression. his mind filled with judgment and confusion. Finally, hours later, as evening approached, Aikido could no longer contain himself. "Tanzan," he burst out, "how could you carry that woman across the mud? It is against our vows." Tanzan looked at Aikido, a calm smile on his face. "My dear Aikido," he replied softly, "I left the woman by the side of the road hours ago. Are you still carrying her?" Aikido was struck silent. He realized that, while Tanzan had physically carried the woman, for a brief moment of necessity, Aikido himself had carried her in his mind, burdening himself with judgment and worry for hours. He learned the profound lesson of letting go, not just of the physical, but of the mental attachments and judgments that weigh us down. How often do we carry burdens that are no longer present? Past events, old worries, lingering judgments. True freedom, true rest, comes from realizing what we are still carrying and choosing to gently put it down. Let go of what no longer serves you now. Story 9. The Muddy Road. A Zen master was walking with his students along a well-worn path. Recent rains had turned a section of the road into thick mud. One student, concerned about dirtying his robes, walked carefully around the edge, trying to avoid every puddle. Another, with a sigh of resignation, plunged directly through the mud, his robes quickly becoming splattered. The master simply walked straight through, his steps firm and even, not hurrying, not hesitating, and not expressing any concern for the mud. As they continued their journey, the first student meticulously brushed at his robes, trying in vain to remove every speck of dirt. He sighed repeatedly, unhappy with the situation. The second student, though muddy, seemed to have forgotten the mud entirely, engaging in cheerful conversation with others. After a while, the master stopped and turned to his students. "The mud," he said, "is on the road. It is no longer here with us. One of you," he observed, looking at the first student, "is still walking in the mud, even now. And the other," his gaze softened towards the second, "has already moved on." He reminded them that life's challenges, like muddy roads, are transient. To dwell on them, to continue to feel their discomfort long after they have passed, is to remain stuck in the mud, even when the path ahead is clear. The true art is to walk through what must be walked through, and then to leave it behind, allowing the mind to be free. Life's challenges, like the mud on the road, are often temporary. What truly matters is not the obstacle itself, but how long we choose to remain in its shadow. Let go of the past's discomforts. The path ahead is clear. Story 10. The Farmer Who Never Worried. In a village known for its fertile lands, lived a farmer named Hiro. Unlike his neighbors, Hiro never seemed to worry. When drought came, others fretted over their crops. Hiro simply tended his fields, patiently waiting for rain. When floods threatened, others lamented their losses. Hiro just worked to secure what he could, then observed the waters flow. One day, a fellow farmer, burdened by anxieties, asked Hiro, "How can you remain so calm? Don't you worry about the weather, the harvest, the market prices?" Hiro smiled kindly. "My friend," he began, "when the sun shines, what good does worrying do? It doesn't make the sun shine brighter. And when the rain falls," he continued, "what good does worrying do? It doesn't make the rain stop. It certainly doesn't make it fall more gently. My energy," Hiro explained, "is better spent on what I can do. Preparing the soil, planting the seeds, mending the fences. The rest, I surrender to the universe." He gestured to his flourishing fields. Worry is like a cloud that darkens the day, even when the sun is shining above it. It steals your peace, but changes nothing. I choose, Hiro concluded, to live in the present moment, to do my best, and to accept what comes, knowing that even in challenge, there is always a lesson, a new way to grow. The worried farmer looked at Hiro's peaceful face, and then at his own anxious hands. He began to understand that true calm comes not from a lack of challenges, but from a release of the need to control what cannot be controlled. Worry often steals our present peace, without changing the future. Like the wise farmer, we can learn to release our grip on what is beyond our control. Do what you can, and for the rest, let go and trust the unfolding of life. As our journey together draws to a close, allow any remaining thoughts to drift away. Like distant clouds on the horizon, feel your body growing heavier, sinking deeper into the surface beneath you. You are safe. You are secure. You are exactly where you need to be. The wisdom of the stories, the calm of the ocean of mind, now carry you. Surrender now to the stillness, to the quiet, to the deep, restorative embrace of sleep. Let your breath be soft, your mind be clear, and your heart be at peace. Sweet dreams.